when you look at someone who is clinically obese and you look at their brain, what do you see? And if I'm trying to lose weight, what do I need to know about the brain?
You know, I've thought a lot about this because I have obesity in my family. As your weight goes up, the size and function of your brain goes down. And that's horrifying. People who are, and our society is against us. I mean, I wrote a book called The Brain Warrior's Way, and I argue you're in a war for the health of your brain. Everywhere you go, someone's trying to shove bad food down your throat that will kill you.
I can see the emotion in your face when you say this.
Yeah. It's just horrifying, to think of Carl's Jr. that'll take these, Charlotte McKinney or Catherine Webb, these beautiful women, and have them eat cheeseburgers. And it's unconsciously, people are like, if you eat those burgers, these women will want you. Well, these women have spit buckets on those sets where every time they take a bite, they spit it out because they'd never have those bodies if they ate that food. We are being manipulated, and it is causing what I think is one of the greatest epidemics ever of obesity. And as you're overweight, lower blood flow, aging, inflammation, stores toxins, makes you feel awful about yourself, takes healthy testosterone. We talked about, why the low. Takes healthy testosterone and turns it into unhealthy, cancer-promoting forms of estrogen. It's just a disaster what's happening. I think you have to start counting your calories. And, I run up against all sorts of scientists go, calories don't count. It's complete crap. Now, the quality of your calories is just as important, but don't eat more than you need. And we live in a society where we're eating way too much, and people don't know. If you think of the Cheesecake Factory and these monster portions, it's like, that's insane. And it's a big thing that changed. But the obesity epidemic really started as the U.S. government, among others, demonized fat. Everything became low fat in the 80s, low fat, low cholesterol. And they put sugar in things to replace it. And in fact, it just came out recently, it was in the 60s, that some of the sugar companies paid scientists to say it's fat, not sugar. And it damaged millions of people.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about is, well, there's really two outstanding questions that I have for you, Doctor. The first one is about screen time. People want to know, does screen time, this generation that have grown up 11 hours a day on a screen or social media, up to 11 hours a day, according to some studies, does that have an impact on our brain?
It does. It shrinks it. It's sad. I mean, what it does is it wears out your pleasure centers. So you have these two areas in your brain called the nucleus accumbens, and they respond to dopamine. And they bring you happiness, and they bring you pleasure, and they bring you motivation, and they bring you drive. And when you're hitting them, like every buzz on your phone, every notification, every time you scroll and you like something, you just got a little hit of dopamine. Well, the more you do it, pretty soon you thrill them to death. You begin to wear out those pleasure centers. And let's just take fame, for example. I've been blessed to see Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus and a whole bunch of really fascinating, cool people who've been really depressed. It's like, how can you be depressed? You're Justin Bieber. Or how can you believe you're not enough, right? Because their pleasure centers get worn out by being noticed over and over and over again. Well, when you allow that in your brain, the screen time, 3.5 hours. If you're on for 3.5 hours a day, you have an increased risk of anxiety, depression, addiction, obesity, ADHD. And our society is on way more than that. And you go, so why are we having this epidemic of teenage suicide and mental health problems, especially in teenage girls. Social media. It's one of the big issues of the day. And not only are you wearing out your pleasure centers, you hate yourself because you think everybody's better than you are. It's the comparison dragon that is damaging you.
My last question is about happiness, which we're talking about there. I spoke to, I think it was Tally Sharrett that told me happiness takes on this kind of interesting arc throughout our lives, where at the start of our lives, we're a little bit happier. Then in the middle of our lives, we're a little bit sadder. And then as we age, we go back into being happy. Now, I was contrasting that information to what you said about how the brain withers with age. If the brain is withering with age, then how come a lot of neuroscientists think that happiness resembles this kind of U-shape in our lives, where in the middle of our lives, we're less happy. At the start and the end, we're more happy?
That's a great question. We're less striving as we age, right? So after 65, 70, we've sort of done much of the hard things that we need to do. And so depression also goes up with age too. And obviously dementia goes up with age. So I think it's because I don't have to accomplish things, which makes the middle part so hard.
So we're more satisfied with the nature of our lives because we're not trying to...
Well, if we are, right? If we're not, then that becomes a problem and increases the risk of depression.
It's complicated though, isn't it? Because, you know, you get older, you probably have less connections as well. So that's a confounding factor. And
yeah, so I wouldn't...
It's very...
I mean, I have seen that research, and I wrote a book on happiness because, you know, when I write a book, it'll take me 6 to 9 months to write it. And I'm like, so what do I really want to think about for this next 6 to 9 months? And I loved it because, like, negative thinking is a bad habit, is happiness is also a habit. And when I go to bed and I go, what went well today? I'm feeding happiness. Or throughout the day, if I look for the micro moments of happiness, you know, what's the smallest thing that's going to happen today that's going to make me happy? Then I'm just happier.
Yeah.
You're going to have a healthier brain if you keep it away. Because alcohol lies to us.
Alcohol lies to us.
Alcohol causes damage in the brain.
Really?
Even a little bit of alcohol causes damage in the brain. It disrupts something called white matter. So gray matter, nerve cell bodies, white matter, nerve cell tracts. So white matter is the highways in your brain that transmit information and impulses. And even a little bit of alcohol has been shown to disrupt the white matter in your brain. I don't want anything messing with the highways in my brain. But I love that you measured it, you made the connection, and then you stopped it. It's a sign of intelligent life because you love yourself.
Mm-hmm. Alcohol. Because there's a lot of people that are sat on the fence right now with alcohol. They probably don't have a really bad relationship with it. They're probably not alcoholics. But they kind of just, they have it because society is constructed in such a way that on a Friday evening when the waiter comes over and puts down the wine list, you just go, oh, okay, whatever. That's who I was. I was just on the fence. My friend, one of my best friends, was an alcoholic. So I understand why he quit, because he had this really dysfunctional relationship with it that would ruin his life. I'm the type of person that would have 1 drink, 2 drinks, and then I'd maybe stop. I didn't feel the need to have 3, 4, 7, 19. He was different. And also because of that, there was no adverse consequences in my life. So when I went away with him recently, he's writing a book on alcohol and alcoholism. He was telling me about the book and I was going, I personally wouldn't read that book because I don't feel like I have a problem with alcohol. This was before I quit. So I was like, what I would love from a book, this is just me personally, is a book that made the case to people who are kind of sat on the fence that a drink or a beer or a glass of wine, just because, I don't know, society is constructed in such a way where it's hard to avoid. But they could go for a mocktail if someone gave them some performance-based evidence that alcohol, just even a little bit, the casual drinking, actually matters. So this is where you come in, doctor.
One of my biggest Instagram posts was "I told you so." The American Cancer Society came out and said any alcohol increases your risk of 7 different types of cancer. And I've been talking about this for 30 years because I have scans, and people who drink any alcohol have lower activity than people who don't drink at all. And obviously alcoholics, they have terrible looking brains. Don't do that. But you got to ask yourself why. And remember, we talked about the one-page miracle. What do you want? Relationships, work, money, physical, emotional, spiritual health. So where does alcohol come in to that? Oh, well, it helps me relax. Well, the 15-second breath will help you relax, but there are no side effects to it. That will increase your heart rate variability. Alcohol will decrease heart rate variability and brain function. And if it decreases brain function, it decreases decision making. As a psychiatrist, 30%, 40% of the people I see, they initially come to my office because it's somehow alcohol related. Fight with their spouse, problems with their kids, whatever. I'm so impressed. You noticed the difference with heart rate variability and then you stopped.
Yeah, because I was a fencer with alcohol. And it's crazy. And I now understand how difficult it is to stop in our society. I was telling my team, I quit and I went for dinner with a guy called Skrillex. Let everyone know Skrillex. He's a DJ, Sonny. And this was a week after I'd quit. Sat in the restaurant. The waiter comes over, bless him. And he goes, here's the wine list. I go, I don't drink alcohol. He goes and gets a bottle of wine. And he puts it next to me and goes, this is not alcohol. This is art. I'm going to leave it next to you just in case you get tempted. And Sonny, to his credit, is telling this waiter, no, he doesn't drink. This waiter's having none of it. And in that moment, I understood how difficult it is to quit in the society that we've built, where every social interaction apparently needs to be fueled by alcohol. And if you say no, you're either weird or someone will try and change your mind or persuade you otherwise. It's just this culture we have.
The evil ruler society. That's an evil ruler strategy. The food pushers, the drug pushers, the alcohol pushers. For me, I look at people like that and it's like, so why do you want me to drink when I don't want to? What's going on with you?
Yeah.
And it usually shuts them down. But why? Interesting question. When you go to a restaurant, the first thing they do is put bread on the table and ask you if you want alcohol, because both of them drop your frontal lobes. Both of them make it more likely you're going to order more and spend more money at the restaurant. So the bread is an investment on their part because bread gives you a sugar spike, a blood sugar spike, which then pushes serotonin in your brain and makes you happy. But serotonin drops frontal lobe function. One thing they never tell you when they give you an SSRI for depression is, oh, you're going to become a little bit more impulsive because it's going to drop your frontal lobes. And then alcohol, which also drops your frontal lobes. So you'll drop more cash in the restaurant.
Question then, on this point of alcohol. If I took 2 people off the street, let's say they do everything in their lives the same, other than what I'm about to say. I gave one of them a casual drink for the next decade. Just maybe 2 drinks a week, 3 drinks a week for the next decade. And the other person was completely sober for the next decade. When you looked at their brain in 10 years' time, if they were doing everything the same, would you see a difference?
Yes. The person who is drinking 2 or 3 times a week will have less blood flow in their brain.
And will that have changed the shape of their brain?
Yes, it'll be a little bit more shriveled.
And then that means their behavior is going to change as well.
They'll have a little bit less impulse control.
And when you look at the brain of an
a
alcoholic,
little bit less impulse control when you're doing hard things like marriage. Not a good thing. Or raising children or managing a business. It's like you don't want a little bit worse decision.